Picture this: a quiet morning, the kind where the world seems to hold its breath just before the sun spills over the horizon. I'm standing at my kitchen window, a chipped ceramic mug of black coffee in my hands, watching the first streaks of gold touch the dew on the lawn. There's a stillness here in suburban Connecticut that feels almost sacred, like the earth itself is whispering secrets I'll never quite hear. My name's Lauren, and at 44, I've carved out a life that looks as neat as the trimmed hedges lining our cul-de-sac. But looks, as I've learned, can be a tricky little game. I've been married to Mark for 18 years now. He's the kind of man who fills a room without even trying. Broad shoulders, a voice that carries, and a laugh that could charm the frost off a winter morning. He's a contractor, always coming home with sawdust on his jeans and stories about the houses he's building for folks with more money than sense. Me, I'm a freelance graphic designer, working from a cluttered corner of our split-level home, piecing together logos and layouts for clients who think they know better than I do. It's steady work, keeps the bills paid, and lets me be here when Mark rolls in after a long day, smelling of sweat and timber. Our life together, from the outside, is a tidy little package. We've got the house with the slate gray siding, a backyard where the grill sits under a tarp waiting for summer, and a routine that hums along like a well-oiled machine. Mornings start with coffee, always black for me, 2 sugars for him, while we trade small talk over the kitchen island. Evenings, we're on the couch, some mindless show flickering on the TV, his arm slung over my shoulder like it's the most natural thing in the world. And the nights, well, let's just say there are moments when the lights go down, and the space between us gets filled with a kind of heat that doesn't need words. It's all murmured breaths and tangled sheets, a dance we've perfected over the years, leaving no doubt about the fire that still burns when we're close. But it's not just the big moments that define us, it's the small ones too. The way Mark leaves his boots by the door, caked with mud, knowing I'll grumble but clean them anyway. Or how I'll catch him staring out the same window I'm at now, his brow furrowed like he's wrestling with thoughts he won't share. We've built something here, a life of quiet rhythms and unspoken understandings, nestled in a town where everyone knows your name, but not your story. The neighbors wave as they walk their dogs past our mailbox, and I wave back, a smile plastered on my face that feels as much a part of the uniform as my faded jeans and oversized sweaters. I wasn't always this woman, though. Before Mark, before this house with its creaky stairs and leaky faucet, I was someone who dreamed bigger, wilder, with a heart that raced for things I couldn't name. But that's a story for another time. Right now, I'm caught in a moment that's shifted everything, a moment I never saw coming. Even in my most restless dreams, it was just another night, the kind where the world outside our bedroom window had gone quiet, save for the faint hum of the air conditioner kicking on. Mark and I were tucked under the covers, the dim glow of the bedside lamp casting soft shadows across the room. I could feel the warmth of his body next to mine, the familiar weight of his presence after a long day. We'd been talking about nothing in particular: work, the leaky faucet he swore he'd fix, the usual. But then, out of nowhere, a thought I'd buried deep slipped out, like a pebble rolling down a hill before you can catch it. I turned to him, my fingers fidgeting with the frayed edge of the blanket, and I stumbled over my words, my voice barely above a whisper. I've just wondered what it'd be like, with someone else. The second the words left my lips, I felt a hot flush creep up my neck. A nervous giggle escaped me, sharp and awkward, as I braced myself for his reaction. I expected a laugh, maybe a playful shove, or even a flash of irritation in his eyes. But instead, there was silence. A heavy, suffocating silence that seemed to stretch on forever. I dared to glance at him, and in the faint light, I saw him turn to me slowly, his hazel eyes locking with mine. They weren't angry, not mocking, but intense in a way that made my breath catch. His brow furrowed for a split second before softening, and then his hand reached over, resting gently on mine, the roughness of his calloused palm grounding me even as my heart thudded so loud I swore he could hear it. His voice, when he finally spoke, was low, almost a growl, but laced with something raw, something I couldn't place. "If you ever do it, let me be there. I want to watch." The words hung in the air, heavy with a passion I hadn't expected, not a trace of jest or judgment in them. A shiver raced down my spine, electric and unsettling, as my mind spun with questions. Was he serious? Was this some kind of test? I searched his face for a clue, but all I saw was that unwavering gaze, like he'd just laid bare a piece of himself I'd never seen before. I couldn't find my voice to respond, couldn't even muster a nod. I just lay there, stunned, as he gave my hand a faint squeeze before rolling over, his back to me, as if he hadn't just dropped a bombshell in the quiet of our bedroom. Sleep didn't come easy that night. I stared at the ceiling, replaying his words over and over, each syllable echoing in my mind. The next evening, I found myself sitting on our worn-out couch, the fabric rough under my fingertips, as Mark settled beside me with a glass of whiskey in his hand. The amber liquid caught the dim light of the living room lamp, and I could smell the faint, smoky scent of it as he took a slow sip. My stomach was in knots, my thoughts still tangled from the night before. I kept waiting for him to say it was all a joke, a fleeting thought he didn't mean. But when he turned to me, his hazel eyes piercing and steady, I knew this was no game. "Lauren," he started, his voice low and deliberate, like he was measuring every word. "I meant what I said last night. I want to see you with someone else. I'll be there, but I won't interfere." My breath hitched, and I felt my hands start to tremble in my lap. I opened my mouth to protest, to ask if he was out of his mind, but the intensity in his gaze stopped me cold. He leaned closer, the warmth of his presence both comforting and unnerving, and continued, "I've thought about this for years. It's something I've kept buried, but I'm ready now. With you. Only with you." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My mind screamed that this was wrong, a line we shouldn't cross, a taboo that could unravel everything we'd built. Society's rules, the quiet expectations of our suburban life, they all pressed down on me like a weight. But beneath that, buried under layers of doubt and fear, there was something else. A forbidden thrill, a spark of excitement I couldn't ignore. It was like a current running through me, electric and dangerous, whispering that maybe, just maybe, I wanted this too. My heart pounded as I looked at him, searching for any sign of doubt, but there was none. And then, against every rational thought in my head, I nodded. My hands shook as I did, but I nodded. I agreed. The next few days were a blur of nerves and anticipation, like walking a tightrope with no net below. We sat together at the kitchen table one evening, laptops open, booking a hotel room in a nearby city to keep this arrangement discreet. My fingers hesitated over the keys, my mind still wrestling with the reality of what we were planning, but Mark's calm demeanor steadied me. He suggested everything with a quiet confidence, as if this were just another project, another house to build. A few nights later, I found myself scrolling through dating apps, my thumb hovering over profiles, my stomach churning with a mix of dread and curiosity. But it felt too cold, too detached, so I decided I'd do this in person. A bar, somewhere public but anonymous, where I could feel the weight of a real conversation before making a choice. Mark was right there with me, helping in ways I didn't expect. One afternoon, he pulled a sleek black dress from the back of my closet, one I hadn't worn in years, the fabric smooth and daring. "This one," he said, holding it up with a faint smirk, his eyes tracing over me like he could already see me in it. I felt a flush creep up my cheeks, but I took it from him, the material cool against my skin, a reminder of a bolder version of myself I'd almost forgotten. When the night came, I stood in front of the mirror, smoothing down that dress, my reflection looking like a stranger. My pulse raced as I drove with Mark to the city, the hum of the engine the only sound between us. We picked a dimly lit bar on the edge of town, a place with low ceilings and the faint smell of beer and cologne lingering in the air. Mark stayed in the car, his silhouette visible through the window as I stepped inside alone. The clink of glasses and murmur of conversations surrounded me as I scanned the room, my nerves buzzing like live wires. That's when I saw him. Ethan, mid-30s, with dark hair that fell just over his brow and a confident smirk that seemed to know more than it let on. He leaned casually against the counter, a drink in hand, his posture relaxed yet commanding, like he owned the space without even trying. I remember taking a deep breath, steadying myself as I approached Ethan at the bar, my heels clicking softly on the sticky floor. We talked for a while, his voice smooth and easy, cutting through the tension, nodding my shoulders. I told him just enough, about the arrangement, about Mark waiting outside, about what we were looking for. His eyes didn't waver, didn't judge. They just held mine with a quiet understanding, a flicker of intrigue. By the time I signaled to Mark through the window, my heart was a drum in my chest. But I knew Ethan was the one for this unusual night. Now, here we are, stepping into the hotel suite we'd booked, the air thick with a tension I can almost taste. The door clicks shut behind us with a finality that makes my stomach lurch. The faint hum of the air conditioning the only sound for a moment as I take in the space. It's sterile, modern, almost too perfect. Beige walls that seem to absorb the dim light, a king-sized bed dominating the center with crisp white sheets folded with military precision, and a small armchair tucked in the corner, its fabric a muted gray. I set my purse down on a glass-topped side table, my hands trembling so badly I nearly drop it, the leather strap slipping through my clammy fingers. I can feel the weight of every decision that led us here pressing down on me, like the room itself is holding its breath, waiting to see what I'll do next. Ethan breaks the silence first, his voice light as he tosses out a casual quip about the city skyline visible through the window. Something about how it looks better from up here than down in the grit of the streets. I force a laugh, the sound brittle and hollow in my throat, my palms still slick with nerves as I try to match his ease. He seems so unfazed, moving through the space like he's been here 100 times before, heading to the minibar and pouring himself a glass of water with a steady hand. I stand frozen near the window, the cool glass against my back a sharp contrast to the heat blooming under my skin, watching as he takes a sip and continues chatting about nothing in particular. Traffic, weather, the kind of small talk that feels absurd given the gravity of why we're here. Mark, meanwhile, is all quiet purpose. He crosses the room with that deliberate stride of his, the one I've seen 1,000 times when he's sizing up a job site, and pulls the armchair from the corner to face the bed. The scrape of its legs against the hardwood floor sends a shiver through me, a small, jarring sound in the otherwise stifled atmosphere. He sits down with a kind of controlled calm, his broad frame settling into the chair, hands folded in his lap, his hazel eyes fixed on some invisible point ahead. Then, in that low, firm voice I know so well, he lays out the rules, each word measured and unyielding. No emotional ties, no lingering conversation after, just this one night to explore what we've agreed to. His tone leaves no room for debate, and I feel my chest tighten as I listen, the reality of his words sinking in like stones. Ethan just nods, casual as ever, taking another sip of his water, his expression unreadable but not resistant, like he's heard rules like this before and knows how to play by them. I'm still by the window, rooted in place, the fabric of my black dress clinging to me in a way that feels both too tight and too revealing. My emotions are a storm inside me, swirling and clashing with no clear direction. There's shame, sharp and biting, gnawing at the edges of my thoughts as I stand here under the weight of what we're about to do. It's a feeling I can't shake, a whisper of all the norms and expectations I've lived by for so long, telling me this is wrong, that I should turn back. But there's exhilaration too, a wild, reckless pulse that races through me, making my skin prickle with every breath I take. I feel exposed, standing here in this moment, every nerve in my body on edge, like I'm standing at the precipice of something I can't fully grasp. My breath catches as Ethan sets his glass down, the faint clink against the counter pulling my attention back to him. He turns to me with a look that's both knowing and detached, a silent question in his dark eyes as he steps closer. My legs feel like they might give out, trembling beneath the weight of anticipation and uncertainty. But I don't move. I can't. Not yet. The air shifts as he closes the distance, his presence overwhelming in a way I hadn't expected. His hand brushes against my arm, a fleeting touch that sends a jolt through me, the heat of his skin against mine igniting something raw and untamed. I hear my own breathing, uneven and shallow, like I'm struggling to keep up with the storm inside me. My heart is a wild thing, pounding so hard I'm sure it's echoing in the quiet of this sterile room. The bed creaks softly as we move toward it, a sound that cuts through the haze in my mind, grounding me in the reality of what's unfolding. The dim light from the bedside lamp casts long shadows on the wall, stretching and twisting like they're part of this strange, surreal dance. I can feel Ethan's hands, steady and sure, guiding me with a kind of practiced ease that tells me he's done this before, that I'm just another moment in a string of fleeting encounters. His touch isn't personal, isn't tender. It's mechanical, almost clinical, but there's a skill to it that I can't ignore. He murmurs something, words I barely register over the rush of blood in my ears, his voice low and indistinct, like a distant hum. I'm caught in the sensation, the way my skin prickles under his grip, the way every movement feels amplified, like the world has narrowed to just this room, just this bed, just this forbidden edge we're teetering on. And then there's Mark. I can't forget him, even if I wanted to. He's there, in the corner of my vision, a silent sentinel in that gray armchair. I steal a glance at him, just once, and the sight of his face, unreadable, carved from stone, sends a shiver down my spine. His hands grip the armrests, knuckles pale from the pressure, and I can't tell if it's tension or something else holding him there. That look, that stillness, it fuels a tangled mess of emotions in me. Shame, sharp and biting. For crossing this line I swore I never would. But also a strange, electric excitement. A thrill that pulses through me knowing he's watching. That he wanted this as much as I'm starting to realize I do. It's a betrayal of everything I thought I stood for. Those vows I made all those years ago. And yet, in this moment, it's like I'm shedding a skin I didn't even know was suffocating me. The guilt gnaws at me, a constant undercurrent beneath the heat and the rush. I think of our quiet mornings, the coffee mugs side by side, the life we've built brick by brick. But then there's this other side, this hunger I've buried for so long, now clawing its way to the surface. It's not just about the physical, though that's undeniable. The way my body responds, trembling and alive under every touch, every shift of weight above me. It's the taboo of it all, the risk, the sheer audacity of stepping outside the neat little box of my life. I'm not just breaking rules, I'm shattering them, and there's a part of me, a part I'm only now meeting, that revels in it. I feel awake, truly awake, in a way I haven't been in years, like I've been sleepwalking through my own story until now. Ethan remains a stranger, even in this closeness. There's no connection, no spark beyond the surface. He's a means to an end, a key to unlocking something I didn't know I needed to explore. His movements are precise, almost too perfect, and I'm hyper-aware of how detached it feels. As the intensity of the night fades, I'm left lying on the rumpled sheets, my chest rising and falling with uneven breaths, the cool air of the hotel room brushing against my skin. The silence that follows is heavy, almost tangible, like a thick fog settling over us. I can still feel the lingering heat, the echoes of a moment that pushed every boundary I thought I knew. But now there's a stillness that feels both comforting and unnerving. I'm not sure what to say, or if words even have a place here after what just transpired. My mind is a whirlwind, trying to piece together the fragments of who I was before tonight and who I might be now. Mark rises from the armchair in the corner, his movements slow and deliberate, like he's carrying a weight I can't see. He crosses the room, the faint creak of the floor beneath his boots the only sound breaking the quiet. I watch him approach, my heart still thudding in a rhythm I can't control, and then he sits beside me on the edge of the bed. The mattress dips under his weight, and I feel the warmth of his presence before his arm slips around my shoulders, pulling me close. It's a familiar gesture, one I've felt 1,000 times over the years, but tonight it carries a different meaning. Something deeper, rawer, like we've crossed into uncharted territory together. His touch is steady, grounding me when I feel like I might drift away on the tide of my own thoughts. I lean into him, the scent of sawdust and sweat still clinging to his shirt, a reminder of the man I've always known, even as I grapple with this new side of us. His breath brushes against my ear as he leans in, his voice dropping to a soft, intimate whisper that sends a shiver down my spine. Next time, you'll pick two. The words hit me like a jolt of electricity, sharp and unexpected, stopping my breath in my throat. My eyes widen, my mind reeling as I try to process what he's just said. Next time? The implication hangs heavy in the air, a promise, or maybe a challenge, that this isn't the end, that there's more to explore, more boundaries to test. I turn my head slightly, searching his face for a hint of jest, but his hazel eyes are serious, intense, burning with something I can't quite name. My stomach twists, a mix of shock and a strange, forbidden curiosity stirring deep within me. I don't know if I'm ready for more, if I can handle pushing further into this unknown, but the thought alone sets my nerves alight. Sitting there, wrapped in his embrace, I feel the full weight of what tonight has done to us. It's like a lens has shifted, reframing everything I thought I understood about our marriage. For so long, we've been caught in the quiet rhythms of routine. Coffee in the morning, small talk over dinner, the predictable comfort of our life in suburban Connecticut. But now, there's this shared secret, this hidden chapter we've written together in the dim light of a hotel room. It's dangerous, no doubt, a spark that could just as easily burn us down as light us up. And yet, I can't deny the way it's reignited something between us, a connection I hadn't realized had dimmed over the years. I feel it in the way his arm tightens around me, in the unspoken understanding that passes between us without a single word. We've ventured into a space most would never dare to tread, and somehow, it's drawn us closer, binding us in a way I didn't expect. I should feel regret, shouldn't I? The moral weight of what we've done presses down on me, a shadow that lingers at the edge of my thoughts. I think of the vows we made, the promises etched into the foundation of our life together, and there's a pang of guilt that I can't shake. But when I search deeper, past the shoulds and the oughts, I find something else, a quiet, defiant truth. I don't regret it. Not really. Because tonight, for the first time in longer than I can remember, I felt truly seen, desired in a way I hadn't felt in years. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.